Like the kid was shooting in it, like he pressed the trigger and it went boom, and he like flinched.
About the bed, it'd be right here. How we can approach him and how we can close off every single exit corridor. You gotta get to your spot immediately and you're running to close that gap.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome to Bows, Bros, and Bucks. This is episode number 7. Today we have an awesome guest from the Just Hunt Club. We have Jake Lynch.
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
My name is Jake Lynch. I'm born and raised in upstate New York, Southern Tier region, and I got my bachelor's degree in environmental studies from Alfred University out in Western New York, and in 2021 I got my master's degree in recreation management from SUNY Cortland, which is just down the road from me here. And yeah, during grad school I was working for the DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation for the state, on Reynolds Game Farm raising pheasants. And after I got my master's degree, I was sort of wondering what was next, and Just Hunt Club John Lewis just sort of jumped in my lap a little bit.
That's awesome. So how long have you been with them? It hasn't been too long, right?
No, this fall was my start of my second deer season with them.
Awesome.
So this year, yeah, my internship and then now. So it's been
Sweet.
really fun.
So you did an internship with them first before you started working for them?
So how I got my internship is sort of a weird story in itself. I was working, like I said, working for Reynolds Game Farm, raising pheasants, not knowing what I was going to do with my newly acquired master's degree. And during grad school, I had been applying for 3 years in a row to the THP internship. First year I applied, I got a couple of emails back and forth from them, but really didn't have hardly any experience. So between the first year and the second year, I got some more experience, bought a camera, threw some stuff together on iMovie, got to where I had a couple phone calls with Aaron and made it a little further in the process. The third year was my last year of grad school. I was really debating on if it was even worth applying for, like didn't think I was going to get it. And I didn't get it, obviously, but I ended up doing it anyway just for the chance to talk to Aaron or one of the guys a little bit more, just because why not? But I was very close to not doing it. That's something I think about a lot, is that decision of just applying, even though the odds of me getting it was very low. That's sort of what set me up, because then I was just working along. End of the summer, I think it was, beginning of August, just working at the pheasant farm, and I get a random text from John Lewis saying that his intern, the guy he was gonna hire, ended up taking a different position, so they bumped their intern up to a seasonal position, and then they were looking for an intern. And actually Aaron Warbritton, from our conversations of me applying for 3 years in a row, recommended me to John because we were sort of in the same region of the state. So then, yeah, we met up, did some training, met the guys at Eric Hansen's cabin out in Western New York, and it's been going steady ever since. Really good friends with all those guys. John's like one of my best friends. Cody's one of my best friends. Brett, all those guys. It's pretty unreal, honestly. I've been feeling lucky for a long time, waiting for my luck to run out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, he's got the dunks, he's from New England. But no, I absolutely love watching their stuff. I've been watching it for years, and I know Brett Joy, his scorer around where I live.
Mhm.
I think he lives like 15 minutes away from my house. I know Ross a little bit. Getting to know some more of the guys. I don't know the hunting public guys personally, but I've been watching their stuff for like 3-4 years. They make some awesome content. So if you guys want to watch any of that, I'll leave Just Hunt Club and the hunting public in their stuff. They did kind of a collab Iowa deer drive thing, right? That's how I found that. Yeah, that's how I found you originally on Instagram, because I'm new to Instagram. I've been doing TikTok for a year now and YouTube for just about a year, and growing that way. Most of my views are from the shorts that I post. I mean, that's where like probably 3 million of the views came from, is purely just shorts, and then the rest are from the videos. But I've been just trying to grow that way. Do you want to go into deer drives and basically how you guys found those spots in Ohio, and basically how you guys set up?
Yeah. First of all, obviously, Zach Fehrenbaugh and Ben Robinson, his buddy, and Keith Robinson, they're from Ohio. So they do all of the organization of that whole thing, making sure there's equal cameramen to shooters, making sure that that's all taken care of, doing all this preseason scouting, finding the spots, just like unbelievable amounts of conversations and strategy going into the drives that I really just got invited on. I was just lucky enough to be friends with Zach, and he asked if I wanted to come, and I wasn't not going to come. So, but basically, how Zach sets it up is we have a very specific pin of where we think the buck is bedded. Like if we had to choose one spot for a shooter buck to bed, it'd be right here. And we figure out, Zach figures out, and Ben figures out how we can surround that spot. And we use the topography to our advantage as much as possible because it's very tightly compacted, steep ridges and mountains and valleys. So it's really kind of, no, it is. It's a very unique place for deer to live and place to drive deer. So we figure out based on where this buck's bedded, how we can approach him, and how we can close off every single exit corridor that he has. Like every direction, every option he has, we want to have it covered, and we want to time it so when he gets bumped, whoever bumps him and everybody else around him is circling in their shooter spots, their exit routes at the same time as the deer gets bumped. And the odds of seeing bucks and deer in general doing that it blew my mind away, honestly, seeing it. Like obviously I watched all of Zach's videos years prior, but hearing and seeing and experiencing how much effort and thought and just woodsmanship honestly goes into nailing it down that precisely and efficiently is pretty
and
pretty
that's where growing up in New Hampshire, I've had that ability to learn about topography, and I think that's how I've killed probably 85% of my deer is based off topography and setting up in either a climber or being more mobile. I wouldn't say that I bow hunt from the ground like stalking. I just don't have. They just can see too far here. It's just not realistic. When I go out to Idaho to college, I can do that, and I've spot and stalked and stuff. So that's a lot more realistic when you can hide in ditches or whatever the case may be. But here, the woods is either too thick that until you see them, it's too late with a bow, um, or anything like that. One thing that I've tried once was like wind bumping. Are you guys surrounding the deer and having the drivers make noise, or are they simply just wind bumping and walking so the deer just trot instead of sprinting?
Yeah, it's sort of a combination of both. There's times where you're literally still hunting, going very, very slow and quiet and trying not to step on any sticks. There's times where you're just sort of casually walking. And there's times where like after a shot, you gotta get to your spot immediately and you're running to close that gap in case the buck he got hit, wounded, or missed and is going to that exit route. So it's really weird how the pace changes in those drives, and that's something that I thought going into Ohio and having so much deer drive knowledge just from my youth. Like I learned gun hunting doing deer drives, and the pace and how it changes is something that I felt more comfortable with than I thought I was going to in the mountains and how Zach sets it up. And I think that's because of my past experience growing up around here, which was sweet.
When you did deer drives, I'm guessing though in New York you're using a rifle, not necessarily a muzzle loader. So how does that come into play when you're using a muzzle loader? Like for New Hampshire, you're only limited to a couple people. There you can have a ton of people and you can definitely cover more ground and box those deer in. Obviously that doesn't say that it's easy. It's not easy at all. You have multiple deer running. You got to make sure it's a legal buck or one that you want to shoot. They're running 50 miles an hour sometimes, and sometimes we're running you over. You got other eyes from does, so you need to worry about them not seeing you. So there's a lot of different factors, but my question is, I saw like in the video, a lot of things can go wrong if you don't have your muzzle loader set up. I haven't done a lot of muzzle loader hunting. I've done it once, and I was using my buddy's muzzle loader, because I don't own my own, but I know that if the powder gets wet and a lot of different things, it can kind of like the kid was shooting in it, like he pressed the trigger and it went boom, and he like flinched.
We'll stall.
Yeah, yeah. So what goes into that with muzzleloader deer drives? Like if you shoot one, do you yell to other people, "Hey, they're coming"? Is my first question.
Well, this is only my second year really muzzleloader hunting, and that muzzleloader I used in the Ohio video was my dad's. So I'm still learning and perfecting my muzzleloader skills clearly. But yeah, I know when it gets wet, you just got to change the powder pretty much every day, or wear those little finger condom things that you roll over the barrel. Those are
Yep.
probably what I would do if it was if it was raining during
Yeah.
those Ohio guys. That's definitely what I would do. And I don't know, in terms of muzzleloader hunting and deer drives, it just forces you to be more precise. Like it forces you to really wait for those opportunities that may not even show up when the deer comes through running 30 miles an hour. And that sort of goes into why the efficiency of Zach and Ben's Ohio drives impressed me so much, because it is that challenging and we were getting that many opportunities. But also back talking about driving back by my house, you said something about rifles. My whole life up until a couple years ago, it was shotgun only.
Okay. Yeah, that's near my house is only shotgun only.
Yeah, yeah. So I never even killed a deer with a rifled gun until I was 24.
Yeah.
Just iron sight, semi-auto shotgun with
Yep.
slugs. And
My first deer was with buckshot because my dad didn't think I could hit the broadside of a barn. So I broke this deer's poor legs and got one thing into its lung, and my dad had to go finish it off. And we were in separate spots, and it was just an absolute nightmare. Like I shoot the deer, and it does like a backflip and then runs off, dragging its leg along. I'm like, why didn't he put a slug in the gun? He's like, I didn't think you would hit it. I'm using a self-defense 12 gauge with a gold bead on the end, not even
dude,
meant for a shotgun. And then I think or maybe it was a hawk. I was either using that or like a knockoff Mossberg 500 thing from like China.
uh-huh.
It was yeah, it was interesting. They did change the rule last year though in a lot of places and counties that you can use a 45 mag lever action instead of just a shotgun, which I like. So
Actually,
you get a little bit more distance and reliability than a shotgun, but
yeah, our county, I can't remember when exactly it switched to rifle, but since then, honestly, 90% of our guys during deer drives, my dad's deer hunting camp and our hunting camp back home, they still use shotguns even though it's rifles. We just have a few select spots on a few specific drives. We're like, hey, take the rifle for this one because
just
with
because
the rifle,
of the getting lost in the scope or what?
getting well, a lot of the guys have slugs with scopes, like shotgun scopes on them, but just because I don't know, most of the shots I would say are within 75 yards, and in like STEMI, you're shooting through some stuff usually, and just force of habit, I guess. We went shotgun all those years. Never even really thought about
If it
switching.
ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. And our hunting crew, it's depending on the weekend, it can go from 4 to 20 guys. And we're pretty efficient at making sure that the freezers get full. So
Holy
it's pretty
crap.
fun. Yeah.
So when do you do those and when am I coming? No, I'm just kidding.
Opening
No,
day, opening weekend.
that's crazy, dude. That's what's the window? Can you shoot does on those deer
Yeah.
drives?
So we have, luckily, where I live sort of close to 4 different WMUs,
Mm-hmm.
and we have spots in most of them. So we just sort of say, all right, we got this many tags for this unit. Let's go shoot those there until we're done, and then go on from there.
Yeah. We only have 2 days where you can shoot with a gun a doe where I live.
That's crazy. Yeah, New
It's
Hampshire has some weird laws, but it's
it's
nice to
got
get no deer up there.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, where I live, it's like I'll give you an example. Like I said this on my last podcast, but a couple of days ago when I went shed hunting, just like I checked every field within 15 miles of my house and didn't see a deer at sunset.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's dumb. Like in Idaho, I can go whenever I want and see deer.
Uh-huh.
They might be on private land, but it doesn't matter. Like there's deer.
Yeah.
And like during the rut, I saw like 5 bucks over like probably 120 inches. One was like 150, and they're all chasing with the steam coming out of their mouth on a cold, frosty morning, chasing after a hot doe. I
In
mean,
Idaho.
yeah, in Idaho, but the problem is that like 90% in southern Idaho are on private land because it's all river bottom and farmland.
Mm.
So I just knock doors and try to get permission, but people try to create multiple landowners try to create a cohesive thing where they're like, okay, we're not going to let anyone in. It's just going to be for our kids.
Yeah.
And the public land that is there, a lot of it's landlocked. So unless you like have a boat and you want to hunt a 2 acre thing out of it, they're like, hey, if you kill one or shoot one on that property and it runs onto one of ours, we're not going to give it to you. I had a guy literally say that to me. He's like, there's public land island back there, but if you go on the island and you shoot one, then you're not going to be able to retrieve it. And I'm like, oh gosh, what do I do? So then I just try to find new places, and that's what I did and how I killed my one up here.
Mhm.
But other than that, it's different, and there's leasing factors. I don't know if New York, there's a lot of people that lease land for
Oh,
hunting, but it's just
yeah.
it's kind of
Any
ruined
back roads,
hunting in my mind, but it is what it is.
that's something that my eyes have been open to a lot in the past couple of years, is like how precious having a place to hunt is really. Like private land, public land, doesn't matter. Like just having a place where you can go and not have to worry about it, not like feel weird being there, is it's becoming more and more rare, honestly. And it's sort of a something that I've been thinking about more than I ever have.
Yeah, and where it is all public land, there tends not to be deer there sometimes. Like I'm not
Yeah.
saying ever, but I'm saying like probably a good there the WMA or the fishing game maybe for Idaho will be like, oh, there's millions of acres of public land that you can hunt, but 70% of it there's no animals on. It's literally just sagebrush and like places where they won't live until the
Uh-huh.
winter range. So it's
Yeah.
like that's worthless land. There's a reason why nobody wants to live there.
Uh-huh.
So
We
it's
did the
just it's
same
just
thing in New
funny.
York. Most of it, not all of it, but a lot of it. Public land is just basically places where people are like, I'm not living there.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like most of the country is, honestly, for public land. Some places are better than others, obviously.
But that to be like said, I mean, in Massachusetts, like I've hunted there and I was on like a 150-inch deer that got killed this year. That was 170 inches. It grew
Mhm.
that much in 2 years. And that thing was an absolute giant with like 12-inch brow tines, like just an absurd type deer, just thick.
Yeah,
And
public land is underrated for sure,
and
especially out
it just
there.
depends on the area. And I mean, you just got to get the age class of bucks and find unique ways to get back into those places remote, whether it's
Mhm.
kayaking, canoeing. And I've had success doing that. Like it does work. It's just whether you're willing to put in the effort. Some
Yeah.
people are not willing to put in the effort. So that's where it
We
comes
call
into.
those people the guys that the typical guy you think of when you close your eyes and see somebody like shutting the door of their truck and going hunting on state land. We call those people Billy Bigfoots. The guys with the 3,000 gram insulated rubber boots that walk in 5 yards and
Yeah.
see there and make it happen.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny because I see in New Hampshire, I mean, there's the one type of hunter that's really serious. I would put myself in the thought process that I'm a very serious hunter for my age and just the way that I didn't grow up hunting, but now I'm extremely invested. Like scent lock, I care a lot about that.
Mhm.
If I'm unless I'm out west, then I don't really care about scent. I'll just play off the wind. But here, I do everything I can with scent control. I do the whole John Eberhart type stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I kind of go to the extreme to get back away from people just because I'll give you an example. Like the other day when I found that big 3-point side, I mean there was two tree stands and a hunting blind, and I know that deer will never be there in the hunting season.
Mhm.
It's just I found a shed there and I'm like, okay, that's good to know. It's like fun to find the shed, but I know that I'm never going to hunt there. So
Yeah.
making sure you're in high value areas where they're going to be in the hunting season is most important because they might shed somewhere and that may be a terrible spot to hunt.
Oh, odds are it's a terrible spot to
Yeah.
hunt. It's something they're doing way late season and not October 1st or whatever your season starts.
Yeah. When does your season start in New York?
October 1st.
October
In
1st.
in
Okay.
the northern zone, in like the Adirondacks, the southern Adirondacks and up, there's an early bow season, September 27th,
Okay.
and the southern
Um,
October 1st.
And I had a question. So I've never hunted in Ohio or anything like that. I've only hunted New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Idaho. Those are the three that I've hunted states so far. I'm lucky to get a deer every year that I've hunted. But the question I had for Ohio is I heard you have to kill a doe before a buck. Is that not the case when you're buying an out of state tag or what's the
Uh,
system for that?
I don't I don't think so. I was trying to not shoot a doe, at
Yeah.
least the January season. I don't know. I didn't research too much into it, but I never came up on anything that said that. And I know there actually might be a rule that in the January season it's bow only, except for that 4-day muzzleloader season. And that bow only season in January, at least on public land, might be buck only.
Okay, that makes sense. It
I'm
might
not
just be
sure
like
about
a
that.
bow. It might just be a bow thing because I know they want to control the amount of does that are shot and stuff. So there's some rule with like if you're a resident or something. Someone was
Mhm.
trying to tell me about it because my sister-in-law, her family all lives in Ohio. Unfortunately, they don't own land, a lot of it, but I'll sneak my way into their cousin's property eventually.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they tell me that like they have bucks everywhere, and basically they were just telling me about it depends on what part of Ohio you're in and all that. But some of the bucks you guys were killing this year and some of the ones that Zach and them got last year, it's pretty incredible
Oh,
the amount of deer there. And it's just funny how a couple states over just like switches. Like
yeah.
a deer 140 inches here is like sell your camo, you're never gonna get one again. But
Yeah.
like there it's just like common to have big bucks.
I don't know
Um,
what it is about it. I don't know if it's the feeders on the private land. That probably is a factor.
I
But
think it's the ag. I think that's one of the things that changes it. I think the agriculture, I don't know if it has to do with the soil, but I feel like a lot more people have been farming there and they put more nutritious things like here. People will put like clover food plots, maybe.
mhm,
Maybe that's very rare that someone will intentionally make food plots for deer here in the
mhm,
southern part of the state where I live. Just because of the expense, and they're like, well, what's the point? I'm gonna have a 7-inch, 100-inch deer, and that's like the
yeah,
biggest deer that I'll see. So they don't really put in that effort. Pennsylvania, though, totally different ballgame. Now they're with antler restrictions, they're killing huge bucks. I just had a podcast with Steve Shirk yesterday,
mhm,
Steve Shirk Jr., and he's one of the biggest public land big buck killers in all of Pennsylvania. And he was telling me how much the antler restrictions have helped them as well as harvesting does because it's allowed the bucks to get it just from that 1 year class that they were getting killed at to the two.
yeah,
And that's made a huge, huge difference because bucks learn a lot in that 1 year of being able to survive, first of all, so they can
mhm,
outsmart hunters. Two, when you're doing those deer drives, if you see antlers, you can't just shoot, which in New Hampshire and Maine, that's what people do. They track them and then they shoot them if they see any antlers. There, you
yeah,
have to make sure it's a legal buck because it has to have three on one side.
mm,
So it lets a lot more bucks escape the grasp of hunters unless you're a poacher. And then you can do whatever you want because you don't care. But,
yeah.
but
What
you're
there's
probably not tracking if you're poaching. You're probably shooting them out of a field.
tracking from the logging road. There's a unit in New York, in Eastern New York, with an antler restriction. Well, just one like
Really?
small section of the state. And I can't remember who it was, but I talked to a guy who's from down there, or he hunts down there, and he said similar thing. Like it just lets them get a year older and lets them get their first year of or second year of experience of surviving under their belt. And they say it's made a huge difference down there. So
Yeah. And that's the other thing is I think also with Ohio versus here is we have a lot harsher winters. So that's
mhm,
part of the play factor. Like yesterday we had a huge ice storm. The the bucks and the fawns and the yearlings and stuff, they suffer a lot due to those ice storms because it's different than just getting a crap ton of snow. It affects their
for real.
coat and it just wears them down when they have to paw for everything. Like I'll see sometimes when the winter's getting real bad, they'll start to eat bark because they just have no nutrition. And this year we didn't have many acorns, so them trying to dig up out of 2 feet of snow, I see it, but there's no way they're getting that much nutrition.
No.
So I don't know.
Big woods deer are tough. They gotta. What a terrible place to be born if you're a deer.
Yeah, right. Not Iowa, not
Yeah,
Iowa deer,
wow,
that's for sure.
definitely not. It's a struggle from day one.
And I know that we always say like, oh, Ohio, Iowa, Wisconsin, all those places, those people are so fortunate, and they are. But I mean, I'd be saying the same thing as like, oh, it's not that big of a difference if I was from there. Like
Yeah,
people in Idaho, I'll be like, oh, the hunting's so easy here, and they'll be like, no, it's not, it's so difficult. I'm like, okay, like if you would come to my state, I'll pay you $2,000 if you shoot a buck over 120 inches. Like
yeah,
it's just it's just a different ball game, and that's
Hunting
the
difficulty is
interesting
all
perspective.
about, yeah, hunting. Just perspective. Hunting difficulty is all about perspective.
Yep.
Everybody's perspective on what you experience and what's hard for you where you live or where you're hunting, and it's
But I
fun.
also understand mule deer perspectives from my viewers that like are mule deer hunters from Utah, Idaho, Colorado, whatever the case may be. They also have to spend a ton of money to get out in the woods because multiple people are going out for several days or a whole weekend. They're not
Mhm.
just going out just for day to day hiking in a couple hundred yards or miles into a tree stand. They're going out for days and they're spending money on food and tents and all that. And it's probably more physically involved because you're hiking over different mountains and hills. So I've experienced that. So I understand the difficulty there. But also if you're big woods tracking in Maine, tracking a buck for 10 miles,
Yeah,
that's just as difficult when you're in 2 feet of snow and trying to trudge through that and cross rivers and stuff. So I also understand that. So it's cool that I've had both perspectives because some things are harder there, some things are better. But when they think, oh, whitetails, they're thinking you sit on a field edge and you wait for a deer to come to a food plot. When in reality, I'm coming from the big woods and you're coming from New York, where you have to find the deer and it's a lot harder to kill them.
yeah, that's part of the one of the things I love about hunting is how different it is and how everybody does it, but everybody does it differently and in different places, and but everybody still does it, and it's just the fact of everybody being out there, no matter how difficult it is or where you are, is one of the first things I ever loved about hunting. Really, once I started watching hunting shows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, this puppy we just got, sort of a surprise. My fiance didn't tell me. She just brought a dog home randomly one day and set it
Good.
on my table when
That's
I
a
was in
good way to get divorced. Now I'm just kidding.
I was pretty upset.
Oh,
It's just a lot of responsibility to be dropped on you out of the blue. But he's a German Shepherd Lab,
nice.
German Shepherd Husky mix. He's a mutt from a kill shelter. There you go. He's
Turn her into a shed hunter, maybe.
yeah. He's so stuffed right now he can't even move.
That okay, that's actually a beautiful dog though.
He sort of looks like Scooby Doo.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, so back to what we were talking about. Now we can kind of go into turkey hunting because that's coming up this spring. Do you have any plans for turkey hunting with the Just Hunt Club or just by yourself?
Yeah. So starting mid March, we're going down to Mississippi to hunt with some buddies of ours down there. Me and Cody are going down uh, to Jason Hollis's farm. I'm pretty sure that's the plan. It might change. Our plans change all the time. And Brett and John might be going to Alabama to do a little hog hunting that same time, like middle of March. And then from there, we're just sort of working our way north. We'll do another trip to like North Carolina, West Virginia with Josh Elderton and the Untamed guys, and potentially Kentucky. There's a lot of potentials because if
For
something
sure.
changes middle of the season, it's just like, oh, no, we're not doing this. We're going to do this instead. And that's part of the fun of the job, honestly. But yeah, we got a lot of plans. We aren't going as hard as last year because last year Brett Joy was trying to do the northeast,
Slam.
yeah, the northeastern slam, which is 8 states in one season, and he did it. But that took a lot of extra time and extra effort and extra hunting. So this year we've all kind of decided that we're not going to kill ourselves like we did last year. Everybody was pretty whipped last year, and we're still going to have plenty of content and plenty of turkeys, but it's just not going to be as intense as last year.
For sure.
Still fun.
No, yeah,
Still,
that's a lot of content. I understand why it takes a year to put out that much stuff. Like
yeah,
that's a lot of stuff to get out there that people don't realize how much editing takes time. Like I just throw my stuff together, but when I'm doing like specific things, like when I was doing like fishing trips and I was like setting it up like with a drone and like actually doing a storyline instead of just entertainment, it takes
yeah.
forever.
Uh-huh.
Um, and
Um,
dialogue and all that stuff.
that's something that I'm still super new to. Like I didn't really, I dabbled with it on my own before that when I was interviewing for the THP internship, but I never really dove into it until my internship. So it's only been a year and a half really since I started editing, and I'm putting out episodes mostly like 98, 95% by myself, and something I'm learning about every day. And it's very time consuming. And I was a slow
Mm-hmm.
essay writer in school. Like I would rewrite one sentence 10 times until I liked the way it sounded. So editing just feels like it takes me forever because you can show things a million different ways. And it's all
Yeah.
about how you want to show it and you want to figure out what's the coolest way to do it. And I don't know. I'm still a little self-conscious about it. I don't know if I'm a slow editor or if I'm a bad editor or or what, but I'm just gonna
No,
keep learning.
I think it's finding your own pace in editing. Like my roommate in college, he was a professional photographer and social media marketing major, so he puts out amazing content, like does the coolest car
Mhm.
videos and photos and stuff. And he filmed a couple hunts with me and like just gave me the raw footage, and I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Like I need to
Yeah,
learn how to like put it all together, and sometimes the batteries would die or he forgot the SD card or I forgot to remind him about something. So it's interesting, a lot of things that go into filming. And I think finding that perspective of like, okay, I just want to hunt this time, or like, do you want to just film? Because sometimes I would say filming, I scared a deer trying to film when I was hunting and that I could have killed.
for
And
sure.
that was something that I'm like, I have to really make this decision what I want to do, because sometimes it will affect it if you don't get the shot on camera or whatever the
Yeah,
case is.
John Lewis always preaches it's not worth doing if you're not going to just fully commit to it. Because the one time you don't bring the camera, the coolest hunt of the year happens, and it's
Yep,
just, and then all the other times you did bring the cameras makes it not even worth it. So that's
100%.
and that's kind of how I've gone about it. Like I'm all in now. It'll be rare when I don't go hunting, when I go hunting and don't film.
So with the turkey hunting or the venturing off on these explorations with a company like Just Hunt Club, do they pay for the tags, or how does that work with the financial side of that? I'm not asking for figures or anything by any
Yeah,
means. Just how does that work for someone that wants to join for an internship or apply?
interns, obviously we help out the interns as much as humanly possible because they're helping us out in a huge way. But for for people in the business, it's kind of communicate. We communicate about it basically. We just talk it out, and it's different every trip, pretty much. But it's always fair and talked about, and we're always on the same page about what's going on and why. It's a part of the internship that I was very concerned about, but John is a very surprisingly, if you knew John, you'd be surprised to hear me say this, but he's pretty good at human resources at HR. He's very accommodating and very understanding and helps all that a lot.
Yeah, and I've talked to you in the past, and that's been one of the concerns that I've thought about is just when you're an intern, obviously it's different, but when it's a career choice and being able to put food on the table, and especially if you have a fiance or a family starting to grow, you want to be able to benefit them, or a dog that you didn't want.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. But going back to turkey hunting, what are some of the things that you guys do in New Hampshire? I forgot to do a tip of the day, but something that I learned last year is that in the wild, a lot of times the turkeys they'll be on those topography lines going back and forth, waiting for the females to come to them, which I
mhm,
didn't understand that's I'm not a huge turkey expert, but that's the way that I understand it now, is that we try to call in these toms and these jakes, and in reality of the real world in the wilderness, they actually have the females come to them.
yeah. That's
So
I
it's
actually learned that
interesting.
same thing during my internship. Pretty much is you want to ride that line of a hen coming in, but still make him interested enough to do his part too. And it all depends on the turkey and the situation. But yeah, that's a good tip. Good tip of the day.
Yeah. I usually do that at the beginning, but that's all right as long as we got to it. And
Yeah.
yeah, turkey hunting's interesting. Like this turkey I got behind me, um, I actually knew that he was so hunted that I approached it completely different to a normal turkey because I knew how pressured he was. I mean, the turkeys down here after the first hunting like seasons, like first week of hunting season, they will freaking run when they see a car stop. You could drive past them, they would be fine. You stop a car, they're bolting, running for the trees or flying into trees. Like they know what you're doing, But then other times of the year, we'll have 11 turkeys in my backyard this summer, and they're all like hens and stuff, but they're dumb as a dodo. Like my dad was literally on the deck filming them over his shoulder. But then as soon as hunting season comes, everything just goes out the wazoo and they become all intelligent birds.
Yeah, there's New England. I'm very new to New England turkey hunting, but I guarantee you it's underrated for whatever rep it gets out there in the world because there's a lot of turkeys doing a lot of different things, and it's really fun. Some of the most fun I've ever had hunting in general has been in the New England turkey woods.
The guy that actually introduced them to New England, or at least New Hampshire, he's my parents' carpenter's dad. So he does like the flooring or whatever on our house, and his dad's the one that introduced him, and he basically would have a hotline saying, "Hey, if you see turkeys, call me because I want to know how their population's doing." So a super cool system. People would call and be like, "Hey, I saw 6 turkeys in this field," and he'd be like, "Okay, write it down." Now they're freaking everywhere. So we have a lot of turkeys. I've had one fly up almost into my tree stand one time while I was deer hunting. Super cool experience. Um,
That's
Obviously
cool.
it wasn't to the extent of like the viral video where the guy's like petting it or whatever that lands in his lap. I don't know if you've seen that, but this turkey behind me, I knew he was so pressured that I didn't even call to him. I just set up where I thought he was going to come to me, and basically creep in. And that's what I had to do for him. But the majority of the turkeys I've been able to call in, and they've usually been in groups of like 3 to 4 Toms or Jakes mixed in.
Yeah. What's some of your turkey goals? Do you want to hunt a bunch of different states, or you just want to kill a couple a year, or what?
So I'm gonna be honest with you. So I love eating deer, elk, mule deer, whatever the case may be. I don't like the taste of wild turkey too much. I want to experiment this year and try different recipes because when I've done it in the past, it hasn't tasted very good. And I'm a
Mhm.
big fan of what I kill, I will eat. And I just don't want to kill something to kill something. And that's just the way I feel. One of my goals is to get one with a 9-inch beard or longer. I would care more about spurs this year than I ever have because normally I don't care about that stuff, but I just want to challenge myself to make it harder. It's just like, oh, I could go shoot a deer, but I want to get a mature deer because it's more difficult to challenge
Yeah.
myself. I don't think I'll beat 5 beards on a turkey like this one ever because
Yeah.
it was like a non-typical record for the state, like top 5 or whatever, but I
Mhm.
don't think I'll ever be able to beat that, but I'm going to try my best to get a mature one. We can get 2 turkeys in New Hampshire, so if I'm here and not out shed hunting in Idaho, I'm gonna put forth my best effort. What about
That's
you?
uh I don't really have any turkey goals really. Just have fun when the opportunities come up and don't
Heck
ever
yeah.
pass up my opportunity to go anywhere. That's a big thing that I have to start preparing myself for is just the opportunities that already have came and are going to keep coming and just make sure I keep taking advantage of them. That's my only goal with it pretty much.
Do you have a separate job that you do on the side of working for the Just Hunt Club?
So I work full time for Cold Front Creative LLC, which is John Lewis's business, and Just Hunt Club is basically like a sister company or a brand, a
Okay.
sister brand of the umbrella of Cold Front Creative. So there's me, John, Cody McIntyre, and Brett Joy are like the main people in Cold Front Creative and Just Hunt Club, and most of the editing is done by John and Cody and I, and
Sweet.
that's we
Brett's
definitely have
Brett's
work.
just the pretty face in front of the camera.
No, Brett plays very, very, very important roles, and we wouldn't be able
No,
to do
I'm
anything
just teasing. I know him so I can screw with him. Uh,
without
but yeah, they're all super good guys. So if you haven't checked out their channel, please do that. But yeah, I think setting goals, people are like find it funny that you set like hunting goals, and I think it's a normal thing. I think it's something that we can strive to be better, and obviously put put food on the table. A turkey's not a whole lot of meat, but it is sometimes difficult. Like I'm spoiled. The first time I went turkey hunting, I actually went with my dad, and I was pinned up against a rock, and we had our 2 other friends that were down on the side of this big mountain range, in southern New Hampshire, and we're calling, and we hear turkeys around, kind of echoing, and we knew they were coming in because it just got louder and louder and louder, obviously, and we were just me. I was looking at my dad. I'm like, holy crap, they're coming. So they were coming behind us, and my dad said, number one thing is their vision is super good, don't move. And of course I'm 15 years old or 14 years old. I'm dumb. I just wanted to shoot one, so they're coming up behind us, and I back then I didn't decoy or fan. It was the first time I'd ever been in the woods turkey hunting, so I step up with the old 12 gauge shotgun, and I pop up, and there's three turkeys looking right at me at 15 yards, and they're like, "What the heck?" And I was like, "Oh crap!" I pull it up, and my dad, the way he explains it is the shotgun was too heavy for me. I'm lifting it up, and looked like I was about to fall over when I shot, and you just hear and the turkey just starts flopping and I just start screaming like, let's go. And my dad's like, shh, because I'm all excited, but my dad wanted the other guys to get one to hopefully have the turkeys come over. But I'm just screaming, just like all happy. I'm like,
Like
looking
you
back on
should,
it, that's
dude.
probably not what I should have done, but as loud as I did, but I was screaming like a little kid. I was just so excited.
Yeah, if I don't know, you've probably seen it, but if anybody else hasn't seen it, did you see our reaction when I hit that buck in Ohio and dropped? Did you see that or no?
Oh, I did.
We lost it. We saw the deer drop and thought that we were we were celebrating. We were filling the tag, and yeah. So it comes with the territory. If you're not getting that excited, what the heck you're out there for?
Yeah. I mean, I was shocked that deer. What do you think happened with that? I know there were speculations, but anything off camera that you guys thought maybe you hit him and it was just the percussion of basically hitting him and it just didn't hit anywhere vital or what?
Yeah. So he was, as I squeezed off the trigger, he was hopping over a down tree, and so he's going up. Take the shot, and his legs are off the ground, and he starts going down to land. And when he starts going down to land, is when we think the bullet hit him high, like above the spine, and he flopped over. He was flopping there, and he got up when a fourth bigger buck came through down the mountain and ran right by him. And that buck running by him stood him up, and then they both ran off together. It was a weird situation.
That is
Like,
weird.
I mean, most of the time, I haven't heard very many stories of somebody dropping a deer and then it getting up and running. I mean, I know there's stories out there, but we definitely didn't think that it was going to be like that.
Yeah,
So
I've heard situations of that, but it definitely is rare for them to be on the ground and then perfectly fine and not be able to get a shot later or something like that.
yeah, yeah, we just obviously, if you watch the video, you know, but we just should have paused, took a breath before we lost our minds. Basically,
Yeah.
it's just hard not to do when you're in situations like that.
And speaking of that, the last segment that I wanted to go into is, do you have any crazy hunting stories that you want to tell? I love hearing people's different experiences, whether they were younger or even if it was this or last year.
Yeah. I'll tell my first. You told the story of your first deer with the buckshot. I have a similar one, I suppose. I was 14. We were doing a deer drive like we always do. I was a sitter. We call them sitters, but everybody else calls them standers. But our little camp calls them sitters because we're lazy and we sit, apparently. And yeah, the drive hasn't even started yet. We're just got to our spots. Uh, it's a steep bank, like a pine bank ridge with a tier on it, and then it goes down to a bottom, and the bottom flattens out. And I was right on the bottom where it flattened out, and my cousin was to my left of me. And we're just sitting there waiting for the drive to start. We just got to our spots, maybe 5 minutes. I'm anxious as heck. I haven't shot a deer yet. I'm 14 years old, and I got basically finger on the trigger waiting there. And I'm standing there for like max 5 minutes, and just a doe, just a 2, 3 year old doe, comes walking down this trail diagonal at me to like 5 yards, and she didn't see me. And I was going to let her keep walking on the trail she was on because she was heading right towards my cousin. But the doe stops 5 yards in front of me. I look over at my cousin. He's sitting down, completely sitting down with bushes above his head. So he has no idea the deer's coming. So I'm like, okay. I cocked my hammer. I had a single shot, lever action, Ithaca 20 gauge. So I cocked the hammer on it and I just pointed it. I shot her right in the white of the neck and dropped her right in her tracks. And it was insane. I was like, did that just happen? Like, is deer hunting this easy? You just stand in the woods for 5 minutes and they come run to you? But it was sweet. And we had to drag it up probably almost a half mile up the that steep bank I was telling you about, and it took like 5 guys to get it up there, and everybody was pissed, but got my first one there at least.
So that was facing right at you, like running straight towards you.
Hard quartering too, not straight on, but cocked just a little bit. She was looking slightly sideways at me.
That's
Not
crazy.
not a I would say it was a 14-year-old shot to take, but it was a lethal one.
Yeah, that's an awesome story though. I love hearing hunting stories. I don't know if you've ever heard of the hunter's advantage. You ever heard of them?
Hunter's Advantage.
So yeah, so they have a YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram. They actually have like 66,000 followers on TikTok I looked at. And they just hit 10K on YouTube right after my podcast with them. So that's going to be coming out in 2 weeks just because I'm doing one podcast a week. So this will probably be out in like 3 or 4 just because I have so many to post. But they talked about like a crazy turkey story about like getting shot at, and they have an amazing channel of like really cool videos. So if you haven't, you should check out them because I think you'll enjoy their content.
I'm always on the lookout for new hunting channels.
Yeah.
24/7 all the time.
I was gonna say they live in Oklahoma and Texas. The 2 guys, they live in both. So I was gonna say if you guys need to do southern hog hunting or something, that might be a connection for you if you guys need their contact info.
Definitely. Yeah, that'd be sweet. It's all about connections.
Yep. It's who you know, not what you know.
Yeah, half the reason we can do what we do is because of the people that John and Brett know.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. That's another thing that's amazed me since I've got this position, is just how important and valuable the network is.
And that's a big reason I tell people all this time is like, I know I'm not going to be like famous on YouTube or anything, but I can get to know people and I can be able to do more of the things that I love. Because if you try to do everything on your own and think, oh, I need to own 10,000 acres and save up my whole life, you're not going to have any friends or anyone to enjoy it with.
Exactly.
So I'd rather be making memories and running and gunning than just sit back and hate my life. But that's how I feel.
My goal when I go out hunting is to suck as much fun out of the day, out of the hunt as I possibly can, no matter what it is. Goose hunt, duck hunt, deer hunt, tracking in the big woods, doesn't matter. Suck as much fun out of it as possible, or else what's the point?
100%. I totally agree. Well, do you have anything you want to close with? Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate the time that you took to do this, and hopefully we can get a lot of people to view it and follow your social media. I'll drop his Instagram specifically, and then Just Hunt Club, so you guys can check out both.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Check out the Spring Collective if you haven't on our channel. It's going to be good. Getting better every episode.
Yeah, he says don't judge it too hard because it's his editing.
Yeah. No, not all. I'll let you try and guess which one is mine.
Whatever one's better, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know John actually at all, but it's good to hear you say his name so I can follow him on social media or something, because he's one guy that I don't think I do follow. I haven't been to New York a lot, so I'll
give him a follow. He's quite the character. He doesn't post much on Instagram, but he does for Just Hunt Club.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Alrighty. Take care.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching and tuning in to Bows, Bros, and Bucks. We had an awesome guest today, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the awesome chat we had about New York and Just Hunt Club and all the things they participate in. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
There is one phrase in the Bible that's repeated 365 times. Do you know what it is? Do not be afraid.